When mixing and recording audio, I love using analog outboard gear. I've got Audient's iD48 here today. I'm going to show you all kinds of really fun things you can do with that. So today we're going to be going through mixing a vocal using an analog outboard compressor. We're going to be recording some bass guitar through a DI going into one of the optical compressors I've got here. We're going to try sending a vocal back out through a reamp box, through a few cool distortion pedals to get some really interesting sounds. We're even going to be experimenting with a bit of drum bus processing and even some mastering. I'm Paul Whalley. We're here in my studio in London. I've got Audient's iD48 and let me show you how to create all these wonderful things. When tracking vocals, it can be super beneficial to use an outboard analog compressor. And with Audient's iD48 audio interface and its switchable balance inserts, that's now easier than ever. So to set this up, all you have to do is connect your DB25 connectors to the back of the in and out ports on the iD48, and then connect up your various XLR cables to your outboard gear. So now I've got a microphone plugged directly into channel 8 of the iD48. Even though I connected up my DB25 connectors and XLR cables, you can't hear the compressor yet. If I come over to the software and click the ADC path button here, you can hear that makes a massive difference once the compressor is engaged. What happened there was a small relay got flicked inside the interface, and now you've got a seamless analog signal path running through the compressor. Now to a singer, this can make the world of difference and just really glue your recording together. When recording vocals through outboard gear, it can be super beneficial sometimes to keep the dry track just in case. With Audient's iD48 audio interface and its switchable balance inserts and a little bit of clever routing, that's easier than ever. I'll show you how to do that now. So to set this up, all you have to do is connect your DB25 connectors to the back of the in and out ports on the iD48, and then connect up your various XLR cables to your outboard gear. So here I've got my microphone plugged straight into channel 6 of the iD48, and in this scenario, I want to record both the compressed vocal signal and the dry signal. So let me show you how to do that. Here in the iD mixer, we're going to use QA to be able to send audio around inside the software. So if you come into the system panel and send QA to channel 16, that's where AudioScape 76A is plugged in. As I pull this up, you can now see that both signals are coming in, the dry and compressed. And in Pro Tools, all I have to do is simply mute one, so I can select which one I want to listen to. And as I send more and more level to the compressor, you'll see that it compresses more and more, and then you just set the desired balance there. So I want to record this lovely bass guitar. I want to do it fully analog. So I'm going to do that the tried and tested way through a DI and through an optical compressor. And with Audient's iD48 audio interface and its switchable balance inserts, that's super easy. I'll show you how to do that. So I've connected up the DB25 connectors on the back of the iD48. I've plugged in all my various bits of outboard gear using the XLR connectors, and now I want to record some bass guitar. Now, while the iD48 has two wonderful JFET inputs on the front, our optical compressor is plugged into channel 7. So what I've done here is I've got my bass guitar plugged into a DI. The DI is running straight into the back of the iD48 into channel 7. Now, to hear that optical compressor in real time, all I have to do is come over into the software here, check the ADC path and make sure that's set to mic insert. And the bass guitar will be running through that compressor completely analog. Let's see what that sounds like. Now here in my studio, I'm very lucky to have a lot of lovely analog outboard gear. And with the Audient iD48 audio interface, you get 8 channels of switchable balanced inserts. And putting that together with a patch bay, I can create whatever signal paths I want to use as much of this gear as possible. Let me show you how to do that. So I've connected up my DB25 connectors to the back of the iD48. And from there, I've put those down into the last 8 channels of my patch bay here. I've then connected up all the various pieces of outboard gear, and this now means that I can connect them together in whatever order I want, one after another, or just create whatever kind of interesting routing I want. So for example, a very simple usage case is I come out of channel 7, which is the 76A, and just be able to route that straight back into the next piece of gear. When working with vocals, it can be super fun to create all kinds of weird and wonderful signal chains, run it through all kinds of outboard gear, even say a guitar distortion pedal. And with the Audient iD48 audio interface and its 8 channels of switchable balance inserts, it's now easier than ever to create whatever signal path you want. Let me show you one of those now. So now using my DB25 connectors in the back of the iD48, I've connected up my guitar pedal here to channel 3. And in Pro Tools, I've then set up, using the hardware inserts, I've put guitar pedals into channel 3. Using the iD mixer, all I have to do is switch the ADC path to direct mode here. And make sure you're in DAW analog mode for Pro Tools. From there, you can connect up any number of guitar pedals you want to make all kinds of weird and wonderful things happen. So I've got the hardware insert saying pedals here, and let me show you what that can sound like.
Wait, girl, don't you ever look back. There's a hole in the sky.
And when mixing, I personally love to use analog outboard gear across, say, my drum bus. And with the Audient iD48 audio interface and its switchable bounce inserts, that's easier than ever. Let me show you how. So now what I want to do is run my drums I've got here through one of the stereo pieces of outboard gear in my studio. So I've connected up all the various bits of gear using the DB25 to XLR connectors. I've got my bus compressor plugged into channels 7 and 8 in the back of the iD48. All I have to do next is come into the ID mixer in the system panel. Make sure in routing I'm set to DAW analog mode. That's because I'm working in Pro Tools. And then in the front here, like I said, I've got my bus compressor plugged into channel 7 and 8. So I come to ADC path and make sure both of these are set to ADC direct. Inside Pro Tools, all I then have to do is in this top insert slot here, because that's where I want to place my piece of outboard gear, come down to I/O, click on insert 7 and 8, and now I'm completely connected to that piece of analog outboard gear. So let's have a listen before and after. When mixing a vocal, I love to use fully analog outboard compressors. And with the Audient iD48 audio interface and its switchable balance inserts, that's easier than ever. And I'll show you how to do that now here in Pro Tools. So to set this up, all you have to do is connect your DB25 connectors to the back of the in and out ports on the iD48, and then connect up your various XLR cables to your outboard gear. So to set this up inside the ID mixer, there's a couple things you've got to do. Let me show you what those are. You come over to, in my case, I've got the 76A and the opto comp set up to channel 7 and channel 8, and I want to use the 76A. So we make sure our ADC paths are set to ADC direct, and we also make sure we're in DAW analog mode because I'm inside Pro Tools. Then simply, we just drop in a hardware insert. Got the 76A here onto my vocal channel, and we're rocking and rolling.
Can't decide, living on the edge, now it's do or die, oh no. Oh no, no, no. Keep my head above the water, gotta keep my conscience dry, cause the less you know, the better, baby, don't act so surprised. I did what I said, oh, what do you do? Me the better life, someone new. I don't regret the things I did, but I regret doing it to you. I did what I said, oh, what did you do?
Now, mastering can always seem like a bit of a dark art. Personally, I love to use analog outboard gear in that process. With the Audient iD48 audio interface and its switchable balanced inserts, you now can run straight out of the converters and back in to get that really pristine sound, and I'll show you how I do that. So now I'm at the mastering stage, and I want to use one of the pieces of analog outboard gear here to run my whole mix through. So what I've done is I've connected up the DB25 to XLR connectors into the back of the iD48 and connected to all the various pieces of gear that I want to use. So I've got my bus compressor here running on channels 7 and 8. All I have to do then is come over into the ID mixer. In the front here, make sure the ADC paths are set to ADC direct for both channels. And then the system panel, I have to make sure that I'm set to DAW analog. That's because I'm working in Pro Tools here today. Then inside Pro Tools, all I have to do is click on the insert slot that I want, come down to I/O. As I said earlier, I've got my bus compressor plugged into channels 7 and 8 of the iD48. And then I just select insert 7 and 8, and now my whole mix is being routed seamlessly using the switchable balanced inserts through the analog outboard gear I've got here. So let's have a listen to that before.
Pacing up and down the corridor, this house, it don't feel like a home no more, oh no. There's pictures of us hanging on the wall, but they don't really look like me no more, oh no. Keep my head above the water.
When mixing nowadays, you're no longer limited to using either just plugins or just hardware gear. And with the Audient iD48 audio interface and its switchable balanced inserts, you can now create whatever combination you want inside your DAW. I'm Paul Whalley, and let me show you inside Pro Tools how I do that. So I've connected up all my outboard gear to the back of the iD48 using the DB25 to XLR connectors. and I've made sure I've got all my various routing set up inside Pro Tools and inside the ID mixer. And what I want to do now is I want to use a combination of plugins and hardware inserts to process anything inside my software. Now you can do this in any DAW. Today I'm inside Pro Tools and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So inside Pro Tools, you come over to your setup window and the IO tab. You come over to insert, and the iD48 will have already populated all these lovely hardware inserts for you. So I've got the 76A plugged into channel 8 and the Optocomp plugged into channel 7. So I've just named them here. That's on channel 7, channel 8. Once that's set up, you take your track, whatever you want to use. So I've got a guitar track here that's already using a couple of plugins. All I have to do is come over here and select, in the first case, I'm going to use the 76A. So after the 76A, I've got another plugin here. And using the iD48 switchable balanced insert, I want to route out now into the opto compressor I've got here. All I have to do is come down to the IO, select opto compressor, and now it's running seamlessly through those. So let's have a look at what it sounds like going through both of them. There's so much more that's possible with this interface. Today I've only shown you just a tip of the iceberg. Let us know in the comments if there's anything cool that you come up with and other interesting ways to use the switchable balance inserts. Thank you so much to Audient and Audioscape for loaning us this wonderful gear for me to play around with today. Check out the rest of the YouTube channel just to see any other tutorials and other cool ways that you can use the gear. Thanks so much for watching.